Welcome back, listeners, to the T.R.O.N podcast. This is your host, Rashad Woods, the randomness of nothing. The reason this show got created is so we could talk to people from walks of life that carved out their own beaten path and got success from it. And this person embodies that. And my special guest today, talented musician, DJ Shaman. Thank you very much.
Greetings, everybody.
I'm pumped, man. You know, you bring a lot of energy to your performances, and you're straight from the great state of Arizona. And I got a chance to look at some of your social media feeds, listen to some of your songs. Tell us about yourself, please.
All right, man. Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. So I am CJ Shaman, and I'm a singer-songwriter, performer, artist out of a little town called Chino Valley, Arizona, in between Flagstaff and Phoenix. And the biggest town near us was a cool town called Prescott, which has a very rich and vast, like, kind of historic Old West, like, kind of vibe and history to it. You know, when you think of like the Old West, that was the Old West. So I grew up as a little boy, really intrigued by that, really intrigued by cowboys and Indians and the Old West and Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and Jesse James and Billy the Kid. Like, that's what I grew up playing, you know what I mean? And then, football and basketball, Michael Jordan, John Elway, like those guys inspired me. Like, people that it seems like when we're born, there's already like in our DNA embedded like this knowledge of certain people. It's like I felt like from the moment I had my first, like, all right, I kind of know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You knew who Michael Jackson was. You knew who Madonna was. You knew who Michael Jordan was, Magic Johnson, like all these characters, like these mythological characters. And that always fascinated me. And I always wanted to embody that and be that. I never wanted to play small. I always had a very competitive spirit in nature to want to be in the thick of things, you know what I mean? And put my 2 cents into the conversation, if you know what I'm saying.
Every time I went on your social media feed, I saw activity, I saw smiles, I saw you being around your bandmates. And to your point, it embodied that personality. And I think there's something to be said about music. And I like how when I was reading one of the articles about you, you're in the West, but you're like, hey, this isn't a gun and knife show. This is all about music. And a lifestyle and a choice. And this is my way of getting my voice heard in the most positive manner possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that for sure.
Yeah. And so what I thought is I can't sing a note or play an instrument to save my life. So how are you self-taught? Did you take lessons, or how did your musical journey start?
So as a child, I grew up in a family that went to church every Sunday, and we had a piano in the living room, and my mom would play piano, and we'd have like, when I was a real little kid, we'd have like family night, where we'd kind of all get together, and my dad would read like, some verses of scripture and things like that. And then my mom would play piano and we'd sing songs. And then at church, we'd sing songs. But so as a little kid, like I, had a lot of older brother and older sisters, and so I would kind of like, my first introduction into music and being into music was just like stealing one of my sisters, like, she got a new boom box, so I took her old boom box, and it still worked, and I took it, and I'd go in my mom's like junk closet and look around, and I found this old like Elvis box set with all these cassette tapes of Elvis, and I'd stick them in that thing and walk around and listen. And I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. Like, I love me some Elvis, you know what I mean? So I think when I was a young child, even I'm talking like kindergarten, first grade, I'd be trying to like sing like Elvis and like do my hair like Elvis and try to grow out some sideburns and shit, you know what I mean? So and then Johnny Cash, like I'd be going to bed at night and I'd try to find some kind of radio station to fall asleep to, and it'd be some random weird like old country radio station or something playing like Hank Williams and Johnny Cash, and there's kind of like a spookiness kind of, Old West, like dark. There's a storm rolling in. There's like gunfighters about to meet at high noon in the middle of the road. And that kind of feeling really resonated with me. So I definitely grew up with Elvis and Johnny Cash as my first like musical influences. But as far as like, I've never taken singing lessons. I've never, everything is just from the heart and organic. And then now, of course, taking myself super serious. In this day and age, I do all the proper voice warm-ups and exercises and things like that to try to go in there and see what I can do. You know what I mean? Singing
of course.
Can be related to sports in a way. The more you practice, the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of yourself, and the higher your range is going to go. So always trying to change it up and find new things that my voice can do so that I can really have, the more you can do, the more fun it is, you know what I mean?
Well, I thought it was funny because when you said you were listening to the radio at night, and for anybody who's, under the age of 21, that's what people did when they actually wanted to hear music, right? It wasn't instantaneously accessible where you could just play exactly what you wanted. You had to go seek out that specific station, on FM radio at night and actually get a chance to listen. We live in an era where fortunately you can get music, easily accessible, but in a way it sometimes it doesn't make it as special when you were in your bed at night and you're waiting for that one artist to come on, and you're up at night and you have to put the thoughts in your head, and you don't just go to your TV and play YouTube and play this video, play that video. There was something organic, almost like a Blockbuster, where you had to go and make an effort to seek those things out from those special artists that you listened to as a kid, where you
Oh, yeah.
had to stay up late to hear them because it was a moment in time that was, if you missed it, you missed it, right?
Yeah.
And now you're sitting back and say, man, that's what I've been waiting for. That's what I've been hearing. They're saying exactly who I am the entire time, and you relate to that.
Absolutely. And the thing is, too, is back in that day that you just spoke of, too, you may not hear the song you want to hear, so you had
Nope.
to hear whatever they were going to play. And sometimes that was really cool because now you're going to get
Yes.
exposed to something that you didn't know you liked and you didn't even know existed. And that was like a pretty magical thing to hear a song for the first time and go, what's this? Who's that?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, it's I could talk about that for so much time, even like a movie. I'm a big movie guy, and if you didn't get the movie at Blockbuster that you wanted, but you had to get something, so
Yeah.
then you got the one that maybe that wasn't at the top of your list. You're like, dang man, I would have never rented that if my favorite choice wasn't in. So there's something to be said, a little nostalgia, so to speak, of when it comes to the era when you talked about laying in your bed as a kid, hearing that song, hoping you hear it again, but then hearing other people that said, you know what, I can dig this one too, and let's dive deeper into that one as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, like it's funny, like you talk about Blockbuster. Like, remember that, dude? Like in your town, you had we didn't even have a Blockbuster in our town. We had just like the little mom and pop movie place. So
Right.
like if a new release came out, they maybe got at most like 4 copies, but usually just
Yes.
like 2.
Yes.
So if someone beat you to it, you had to sit there and wait. Sometimes you had to wait a couple weeks before there was any copies available because the whole town had to like rely on those 2 copies to pass around. But there's something like kind of
100%.
cool about that, I think.
It really is. And so, when I was watching your video, I really loved the El Diablo video, right? And it had
Oh,
that
hell yeah,
old
thank you.
school, oh, dude, bro, it was awesome. And it had a really old school feel to it. So when you go to get these video shoots and you're scouting these locations, like you're a country, how do you describe your musical genre? So I don't want to describe it for you because that's it. I would love to hear what you describe yourself in your music, excuse me.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even like to really put myself in a box, but obviously, honestly, I'm capable of making any genre of music. Like, something that people may not know about me right off the bat is I'm super into hip hop too. When I was a young kid, like 7th and 8th grade, that's when Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre hit with the Chronic and all that
Yeah.
shit. Like, dude, I used to vibe with that so much. So, like, I got it all inside of me, and I grew up a young kid in the 80s, so I'm all that 80s shit too. Like, I love
Nice.
80s music. I love Billy Idol. I love,
Nice.
even like Paula Abdul and Lionel Richie. Like, I listen to all that shit.
Dude,
You know what I mean?
I think it's fascinating, right? Like people, when you talk, again, movies, just as reference, nobody says about what movies you're supposed to like because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I watched this country, I watched Unforgiven, or then you watch, Mission Impossible, then you watch Terminator 2, and everybody can agree those are good movies. People get very selective when it comes to music, right? So it's like, oh, well, I kind of like this. And then people kind of like, they don't know the reaction people are going to take if, hey, I love Alice in Chains.
Yeah.
And Pearl Jam and Metallica. Like, I love that stuff. I love grunge and heavy metal. But like people tend to have a different look at you when it comes to your musical taste as opposed to the music, as if I'm supposed to put a wall up because I like what I hear.
Yeah.
I like what I like. And it's weird when that happens. So like you're like, yeah, I like hip hop. Well, and I don't want to overtalk you. Dave Grohl said his drumming influence came from the Gap Band, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about how the vibe feels and where you can get your inspiration from, not about the genre.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely, rock and roll all the way.
Great.
But like I said, I have like a huge influence of country music, like, you know, but like 70s, like early 80s into the 90s, like country music, and then like rockabilly, like Elvis, Johnny Cash. Then like obviously when I was in high school, I was really into like the band Social Distortion, Sublime hit right
Sublime
when
was
I was in
great.
high school. And
Sublime was
Sublime,
great.
dude, was so cool because like as a kid in high school who was a part of like a group of kind of like these punk rocker dudes, and we were like the dudes like we dropped out of school and got our own party pads. So there was a lot of our friends that were still in school. And so on the
Right.
weekends, they would come party at our place. And then so a lot of the subgroups of people who wouldn't really hang out in our group, but were like, oh, those punker dudes got their own house and no parents around. So let's go party with them. And they'd be like the more urban, like hip hop kind of crowd or whatever. So the one band that we could put on at the party that everyone would vibe to
Sublime.
would be Sublime. And so
Right.
that inspired me so much to be like, dude, when I hit into this music scene, my goal is to create music that like everyone at the party will want to listen to. So I've tried to do that throughout my career, but when you align yourself, like being in like a band situation was always hard for me because you have to like conform kind of to like this band and like we're going to be a punk rock band or we're going to be a hard rock band. Well, then
For
I'm
sure.
not going to really be able to express myself fully in that way because it's too confined. So in these past years, I've decided to really take the road as a solo artist so that I can literally just express and do whatever kind of fucking music I want to do, you know, without putting
You're
any
right.
type of limitations on it. And I'm not trying to please a certain crowd of people or
Right.
have like a group of fans that are like, oh, we're really big fans of CJ Shaman, but then he put out that one album and it didn't sound
Right.
like him at all. It's like, I don't really care. Like, I'm here to just make music that I think is fun and that comes right from my heart. And I don't try to think about it too much. And I don't even set out to do anything specific. I just like open myself up to the spirits and whatever they want to give me. That's how it comes out. It makes me happy.
Well, it's funny, right? So, like, you're a huge Johnny Cash fan, and think about when he covered Rusty Cage by Soundgarden, right?
Yeah.
Like, that is not a country song
No.
inherently, like, to my ears. And this is coming from a guy who cannot get in specifics of music, but like from what I know of country music, that's not a Johnny Cash song. But then you hear Rusty Cage by Johnny Cash, and you're just like, whoa,
Oh, yeah.
that's a brilliant take on on a phenomenal Soundgarden song, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so, to your point, if you pigeonhole yourself, if you put walls up, it starts to really negate the music that's out there and it starts to put walls up with your fans. Like producers look for great music,
Yeah.
movies look for great music, right? A commercial looks for great music. Obviously, sometimes it has to fit the theme of what they're presenting, selling, or inspiring for. But listen, your ears have to be more opened to be able to formulate the success that you've had so far.
Definitely.
You know,
And I'm an older cat. Like I'm 45 years old, but I've been doing this since I was like 20. And there was a
mm,
time where I pigeonholed myself. And, you know, so now my success and everything that has always been meant for me is sort of happening now. And there's been times on my journey where it's been really disappointing to not have the action and the activity and the accolades come your way. But now looking back, I'm so glad that it's coming now because I've been able to mature as a person and really
right,
fall into myself as an artist to realize I'm for everybody. I want to create music for everybody. I don't want to
right,
be like just like a hard rock artist or a country artist or a metal artist
mm,
or a punk artist. I want to be like a songwriter, you know, and I have songs
right,
that I would like other artists to perform too, and they would have a completely different take on it than I would have. And I think that is like so awesome and like it like erupts this curiosity in me to be like, dude, what would that guy do with my song? I want to hear it. That'd be so cool. You know what I mean?
right.
Like I love that kind of shit.
Yeah, dude, it's like soft cell. You know, they do Tainted Love, right? You hear Tainted
Yeah,
Love, you know, it's a great song. Well, that was a Gloria Jones song that came out 20 years before that, right? And
yeah,
it was kind of like a Motown kind of Supremes kind of song, right? But then we hear this pop hit, and all of a sudden you hear the older version, and you're like, snap, this was like kind of like a doo-wop song before in a way. And then it evolved into this pop different level because people didn't have their ears closed. Just to pivot a bit, when people go to one of your shows, you're in Vegas, Arizona born. What do people get from your performances when they go to see a show? Because I see you bring a lot of energy.
what they get from my show is definitely like, and I don't want to toot my own horn
You
and
do
make
that on here.
myself out like I'm some like fucking messianic figure or anything, but it's definitely like a religious experience, man. Like people who grew up with me would probably consider me like quiet and shy, but then when I step on a stage, it's
Mhm.
something just comes over me that's just like the greatest feeling in the world, and it's supernatural. It really is. It's a divine experience. Like I allow something to come over me and express something in a
Mhm.
way that is just like words can't describe it from my point of view, and it's just like pure energy. And to be a good front man, to be a rock star, I feel like you got to be like, part host, part
Mhm.
stand-up comedian, and part rock star. You know what I mean? Because like I love just like the in-between banter between songs and having good chemistry with your bandmates and being
Mhm.
able to see the crowd, and the crowd always sort of wants to, like, there's always people in the crowd who have a lot of confidence to just get up and rock out and do whatever, but then you always have a group of people who are kind of shy, and they want to get up and like
Yeah,
rock out, but
yeah.
they're kind of afraid to. I always try to like encourage those people to like, come on, get out here, be weird, no one's going to judge you. Let's like, look at me, I'm up here all by myself, like being this guy. Like if I can do it, you can get up and do it with me, you know what I mean? And it tends to always work to get
Oh,
everybody up and having a good time, and that's what it's all about, man. Like the the energy that comes over people when they're in the mood of just of joy is all I want to bring people. I just want to bring you joy, you know.
well, it's funny you mentioned that, right? So, like, I saw Nas and Wu Tang a couple of years ago up in Michigan. They toured not too far from Detroit about 2 summers ago. And to your point, you know the song, you're hearing the song, and you're still just kind of like that, 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 and you're like, here I am with these legends on stage. Why don't I sing like an idiot and rap to their songs and just get caught up in the moment? What's holding you back when you're seeing these guys live? But in your head, you're still metering yourself that you're having a good time because you're scared to have that childlike feeling when you're seeing a great performance.
Yeah,
It's weird how it's so weird. You get self conscious about it because you're like, but at the same time, like, what? Who cares? Who
yeah.
cares?
And,
Right?
and usually the guy next to you that you're worried about like judging you isn't at all like it. Most likely, you're probably going to inspire them to be like, "Oh, I wanted to do that too, so now he is, so now I will." You know what I mean? So
For
it's like,
sure.
yeah, definitely. I don't think you can be, or I personally am not a fan of musicians who take themselves too seriously or take their work too seriously. Because even if the song is like, wow, what a profound song, like that's deep, that's whatever, but like it should still just be bring that childlike essence to your life. Music is supposed to make you dance, it's supposed to make you feel joy. Like I'm a firm believer for myself. I never want to make like sad music. I never want to
Right.
make like super introspective music. And if I do, I still want it to make you go like, yeah, and give you
Right.
goosebumps and want to like be like, hell yeah, man. I don't
Yeah.
like, I personally don't listen to music that makes me sad or that like is
Yeah.
depressing. Like if I'm in a bad mood or whatever, I don't want to listen to depressing music. You know what I mean? I want to listen to something that'll like uplift me and get
Um,
rid of the bad mood. You know what I mean?
I think that there's a and this is obviously there's different multiples of different musics out there, different types of movies and things. But I do agree to a degree that sometimes people tend to worship complexity, right?
Yeah,
The more complex that I've made something, it must be great because it's complex, right?
yeah,
So right, instead of you know if I make it hard enough to understand, then maybe subconsciously people that won't get it just aren't smart enough to understand what I was talking about,
yeah,
right, so to speak. And you're like, no, it's not the case, dude. Sometimes somebody just wants to basically have a good 2 hour show, have a great time. And believe me, I love when people can put things together that make you think and be like play it 4 and 5 and 6 times. But it is something to be said when somebody puts on a great performance and the lyrics are easily discernible and understandable too.
yeah. There is beauty in simplicity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like I'm a big sports fan, so and I grew up in the 90s where, we had the Dallas Cowboy legacy, we had the Chicago Bulls legacy. Those
Mhm.
guys mastered the art of simplicity. They didn't make things too overly complicated. They're like, the Bulls ran that triangle offense
That's it.
and they
That's
just
it.
mastered that and they just did it over and over and made it into
Right.
ballet, man, where no one
Right.
could compete with them because they
Right.
mastered simplicity. And it's one reason why I'm a big fan of Sublime. Like every one of their songs just like sticks in your head and is like entertaining. And like, dude, like I don't even like listen to Sublime that much anymore, but because
Right.
I listened to them so much in my younger years, I remember every single lyric, you know what I mean? Because it's
Yeah.
simple and it's fun
Eh,
and it's groovy. And like,
Right.
I'm not trying to say that my music is like oversimplified or doesn't have like a depth to it or
Right.
somewhat of a like, oh, I need to listen to that again to
Right.
really get to the point. But as an artist and someone who wants to be successful, I want every song to be like a hit single. So I definitely like write. I don't try to make a song like this song's for me. I'm gonna make it like weird and like make it 10 minutes long and have all these intricate like changes and mathematics in it. Like that's
Right.
my style.
Right.
You know, my style is like I want people to like jam this in their car while they're driving to work or driving
Right.
on vacation or going out with their homies, and I want it to like
Yeah.
set the mood for the night. You know what I mean? That's my
Right.
goal, is to set the mood for your fun time.
And yeah, and for people who don't know who Sublime was, that was obviously a ska punk band back in the '90s.
Yeah,
The lead singer was Brad Newell, God rest his soul. But
definitely.
he was very, very ahead of his time too, because to your point, and I had some friends that were really big into it. You know, that was when No Doubt came out. That was
Oh
when
yeah,
that punk scene that was had that Jamaican influence, but was, it's almost weird because it was almost like a weird time where they weren't heavy, but they were very repetitive when it came to their rhythmic drums. They had great singers, and it was just a really good time about vibing.
yeah,
And I don't want to dismiss it that it was just car music, but it was like you could see yourself just at the beach and then just one after the other song, another song comes on. I remember when I had Tragic Kingdom as a kid, and every single song on that album was like, holy smokes, this album is incredible.
yeah,
Incredible album.
yeah. Like
Legendary album.
how can you pick the song you're gonna lead with to be the single if you're the manager, the record company, or whatever? Because every song is just like really fucking
13,
good.
13 songs were all like, I think it was a 13, 12 track album. Every single song was incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. It was lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, and I missed that about that time where you got the whole album. When you got it, you busted it
Yeah.
open, you
Yeah.
pulled out the insert, and you read all the
Yes.
lyrics, and you looked at all the
Yes.
cool pictures to try to find like, what do I need to know about these guys? Like that was so fun, dude. It was like being a little kid and opening up action figures and
Oh,
stuff. You know what
dude,
I
it
mean?
was like the
Same
cover
feel.
artwork. And
Yeah.
on a hip hop side of this, there was nothing harder than when they had the lyrics inside of it, and you had like a Bone Thugs album, and you're
Yeah.
like how in God's name did they manage to rap that fast? And I can't even talk that
Oh yeah.
fast. And you're like, there's just no way. It's so special, man. It's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah. And it's just practice. Like all those guys just like, you know, they didn't like start off that way, you know what I mean? They had to put a lot into it. If you take any major artist who is just like legendary, if you were able to go back and check them out when they first started out, they're awful at it, just like everyone is at everything when they first try it. Like when I first started at this, I was awful, man. Like I was just a kid who was like, thought I could do it. And like when you're doing it, you're like, dude, we did it. And then if you were to go back and look at it now, you're like,
Awful.
oh my God, what were we thinking? But like
Yeah.
that's, you got to start somewhere, you know what I mean? If you want to get anywhere.
Dude, I get embarrassed looking at some of my older interviews. I'm like, the guest was like, yeah, you did a great job. I'm like, dude, this was terrible, right? Like, I didn't know how to structure sentences. I'm kind of like, okay, is it your turn to talk? Is it my turn to talk? And there's that awkward gap, right? And so now I'm never going to say I'm great at this, but I've at least kind of know when to pause, when somebody needs to say more information, how not to cut people off. But like, broadcasting school is great. I'm not dismissing musical school in any way, shape, or form, but sometimes you just have to jump in the water, man. It just,
Oh yeah.
there's, you could have people who could just say, they teach it, they project manage it, they put something up on a board, they talk about it, they talk about it, they talk about it. And they're just like, dude, can I just try this and see what happens?
Oh yeah. I'm a big believer in that philosophy. Like obviously there's certain things that require heavy instruction and intricate detail, but I'm a guy that just wants to dive in and do it myself. I don't want to go to school to learn it. I want to learn on the fly. Like I hated school. I hated church. I hated anything that confined me in a chair and a desk and made me have to like sit there and be still. Like I need to be free to like live
Yeah.
my life and do whatever I want to do. And like I love learning things and I love doing things and I love working, but it has to be on my terms or else I feel
Right.
like the man's trying to hold me down just like naturally all the time.
Much respect. So I always equate what I do to what the guest does. So I do martial arts, right? So I have a black belt in Tang Soo Do, brown belt in Taekwondo, and I take Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. That being said, you're a musician, and music has been around since the beginning of time, just like fighting and martial arts has been around. So I always find it fascinating that even if my name never ends up in any book, I'm connected to something historic.
Oh yeah.
You're connected to something historical. And even though people consume music, very few people can play music.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
few people can do what you do. So you have a specialized skill set that the average person walking down the street simply does not have, right? They just don't have it, right? And that has to be something when you look at, like, I'm CJ Shaman. With all due respect, you can't do what I can do,
Yeah.
more than likely. And that's got to be a good feeling when you walk around.
Yeah, it is a good feeling, and it's something that I've worked really long and hard to have that feeling. So yeah, like I definitely feel really blessed by God to have this skill, but he did make it easy for me, and I think it is definitely comes easier for other people.
Oh, for
And
sure.
and I've questioned that in my life, like why couldn't I be this good like right off the bat, and why couldn't I have success 10 years ago or 15 years ago or whatever? Like some of these cats come out of the gates and they're in their early 20s and they're so talented and they know exactly how to look and how to do, and their voice is so amazing and their skills are so amazing. And dude, when I was that age, I was just fumbling through it, trying to figure it out and struggling. But like God put me on a path, on a special path where he really wanted me to gain a lot of like heavy armor and have a lot of like tricks up my sleeve and have like
Right.
a lot of depth to my soul and go through a lot of struggle so that when my time comes and it hits, like I'll appreciate it so much and be so humble and be
Right.
wise enough to stay
Right.
away from the snakes and the sharks and
For
things
sure.
like that. And I asked for that. I'm a spiritual person and I like being close to God, and he's rescued me from turmoil many times in my life. So I try to stay close to him and do his bidding. And
Hmm.
in that, he has asked me to struggle a lot to get to where I'm at. And it's been hard, but being here and where I stand right now, I'm so thankful that he made me struggle like that so I could be this strong. And it's like something that
Right.
no one can take from me. You know what I mean?
Well, it's the same thing I have, when it comes to this podcast. I'm like, man, I should have did this, 5, 6 years ago. But I said, dude, I wasn't ready. I probably wouldn't have appreciated. You have to come to that term of like, this is the time that I need to embrace,
Yeah.
right? And you can't, and you appreciate it while you're doing it.
Yeah.
I've said to multiple guests, I would never have likely crossed paths with you had this not been created. So it's an inflection point where both of us met at really a good time. I don't want to say the peak because you're always going up, but
Yeah.
somewhere at that point we met, right? Because it was the right time for both of us. And that's really what it's all about. You can dwell, you can sit at home and be like, oh man, 7 years ago, I should have asked Sally out on a date, and that is like, okay, dude, poo-hoo in your pillow and get over it, bro.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about now.
Yeah.
What you gonna do right now?
Yeah, exactly. You only have this present moment. The past you can never get back, and the future isn't promised. So you just got to live in this moment. And like
Right.
the journey is a part of it. So there's going to come a point for me where that journey of like, I'm searching for something will be over and I'll have it. And I'll never get to go back to that kind of carefree feeling of I'm not there yet. I'm searching, but there's no really pressure on me because I'm just out here like searching for something. And then when the pressure comes, I'm sure there'll be moments where I'm looking back being like, oh man, I kind of wish I was just like normal guy sitting on my couch watching TV again because I'll never get that back. You know what I mean? But
Right.
it's a beautiful thing.
I think it's something to be said to be curious, weird, and more importantly, it's funny though, because being an oddball is now the in thing to do. It used to be, when you said you were throwing those parties, when you said you were the guys listening to, to the music, I'm pretty sure that people who were jamming to your music or jamming to music that you were listening to at those parties were probably telling you privately, yeah, man, I really like this songs, but I can't listen to it around my friends, man. So, but I
Oh yeah.
really, 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 I mean, how many times have people said that to you? I really like it, but, when I play it around my friends, I kind of get laughed at a little bit. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like what you like what you like.
Oh yeah. I think that's like the biggest kind of obstacle that people face in life, especially growing up and going to school in those structured environments, and then the kind of like groups and subgroups get created. Like, for instance, up until I was like in high school, was kind of like a jock kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like freaking baseball caps, like team jersey shirts all the time, like obsessed with sports, like obsessed with sports stats, like always watching ESPN and stuff like that. And then when
Right.
I express myself more as an artist and more as like a rebellious kind of like,
Now you're weird.
counterculture kid, I still love sports, but around my friends, like they didn't vibe with that. So I kind of had to pretend like, yeah, I don't like sports anymore. They're dumb and that's for the jocks. And I had to like do it on the down low. Like, what are you doing over there, CJ? Oh, nothing. I'm not watching any football. I swear I was looking for
Yeah.
MTV. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like,
Right.
I definitely encourage everyone all the time to just be yourself and like
Be yourself.
just be yourself no matter what, man, and like life will work out for you if you just follow your own heart.
It's okay to go to a CJ Shaman concert on a Saturday night, watch the NFL on Sunday, and watch the Discovery Channel on Monday. There's
Exactly.
nothing. There's nothing wrong with you. You are free to do what you want. It's best to live your life on your terms. And so I ask all of this of my guests. Where can people find you because they don't need me?
All right. Well, the best place to find me would be on Instagram at CJ_Shaman. And I try to be as lively on there as possible. Like, Instagram, I think a few years ago used to be more of like a free thing where you could go on there and everyone could connect and there didn't seem to be any rules. It seemed to be very organic. May the best man win. And now I know they got a lot of algorithms and shadow banning and things like that. And as an artist who's independent and speaks my mind, it doesn't really follow along with trends or narratives. Like,
Mhm.
I definitely kind of probably would describe myself as kind of being shadow banned on there in this one way, but I kind of wear it as a badge of honor because if you're an artist and people aren't trying to stop you, then you don't really have anything to say.
Yeah,
Definitely
that's
find me
deep. That's deep.
on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, Pandora, like all the major streaming sites. If you just look up CJ Shaman, you'll find me. And my current newest album out, Diablo De Ocho, the Devil of Eight, is my current trending album. It's like every song's a banger. Like I encourage everyone to go and check it out. There's a little something for everyone
Mhm.
on there, and then wait till you see what happens next because it won't be anything like the last thing you saw of me, that's for sure.
That's the most important thing, evolution, man. And
That's right.
I'll tell you one thing, people will always remember the people who tried and dared, not the people that followed the crowd.
That's right.
And so you stand out, and I appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to listening to your music, and I hope to connect with you more in the future. And I'm glad you took time out to be on the show.
Oh, it was absolutely my pleasure, man. And this was one of the better interviews I've ever done. So you're doing a great job, man. I appreciate it. Like, felt like
Yeah.
we already were bros who knew each other.
That's what this system is all about, man. Opening your mind, broadening your thought process, and taking calculated risks because sometimes there's nothing more worse in life than regret. And if you don't take risks, you're going to look back and ask yourself a lot of painful questions if you didn't do it.
Absolutely, man. Wise words right there.
Appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you too, man. Take care. Thank you so much.
You
I'm
too.
honored.
Bye.